Welcome back, Fresh Ice Hockey Podcast. Brian Matusi, Andy Matusi. As always, shows presented by Xenopucks, and we are doing our first video episode today. So before we get started, I do want to give a quick shout to our sponsor, Xenopucks. Andrew, take it away.
Hey everybody, it's good to be here for our YouTube premiere. Before we get started, like Brian said, we just want to tell you about our new sponsor. We mentioned last week that we partnered with Xenopucks, and now that we can show you,
yeah, we can show them off now.
We can.
Oh, shit. Here we go.
Well, right now I can't really as well because I'm using a World War I camera as a webcam. So
yes, some of us invested in equipment, and it
well,
wasn't me.
So this is what they look like. As you can see, it's the same size and weight as a regular hockey puck. The difference with these pucks is these are meant for practicing your stick handling, pretty much off ice training. So practicing your shot, your stick handling, whatever you can think of. You can use it on almost any surface off the ice. And I'm speaking from experience when I say this thing glides like a hot knife through butter on asphalt, concrete,
Tile, carpet, grass,
all that good stuff. And, you know, I spoke to the guys from Xenopucks, and he said they had a guy tried it on dirt on a baseball diamond in the turf, and it worked beautifully. Yeah, dude, these things are insane. I mean, you have one. They sent one to one of our guests, Ben, or our only guest at this point, Ben.
Yeah,
and he got one too. But these things are incredible. If you're looking for a top tier off ice practice puck, stop looking. This is it right here.
You found it. See?
Yeah.
Well, if you're watching, you can see. If you're listening, I suppose we sound like a bunch of idiots. But if you're watching, which you should be, then you can see.
Absolutely. I'm telling you, you're not going to find one better than this. You might find one similar or for a lower price, but I can tell you right now, the quality is not going to be the same. I'm just saying it. This is as good as it gets right here. So make sure you head over to xenopucks.com. Check them out. They got some merch on there too. So get yourself a puck, get yourself some merch. I'm telling you, they make some really good stuff over there, and they're really good people. So shout out to Xenopucks for partnering with us, giving us sponsorship for the show. Brian, what do we got going on today?
Well, it's St. Patty's Day, so it looks like it's an all green episode for us. It was pretty easy for me to find green in my collection, given the team I cheer for. So that wasn't exactly, there wasn't a big effort on my part to find some green, but you got yourself a special edition St. Patty's Day Cleveland Monsters jersey. So that looks, that's looking pretty sharp, but yeah, we're all decked out for the holiday. So let's get started with the show, though. We're going to start with Matt Rempe and his 4-game suspension that he received for elbowing Jonas Siegenthaler in a game against the New Jersey Devils. All right. So this kind of seemed like it was a long time coming already with how feisty Rempe's been right out of the gate to start his career. I figured it was only a matter of time before he crossed the line way too far. And in this case, just an absolutely unnecessary elbow. He injures a really good player in Jonas Siegenthaler, and as a result gets 4 games. What do you think of the suspension? Was it too long for a guy this new, or do you think it's important to send a message that this is not acceptable?
You know, I was talking to one of my buddies earlier in the week when the suspension actually got handed down, and I actually think it's perfect for him. It's not too long. It's not too short. It's just enough to get your message across to him, kind of humble the kid while he's still young. Because, I mean, he's trying to make a name for himself. He's a rookie. He's trying to show that he's got what it takes to hold his own around the league. So I understand kind of what he's doing, but I think the suspension is perfect. I think it sends a message. It's not over the top. I think it's perfect.
Yeah. And truthfully, and again, not that Rempe's a superstar player, but yeah, it's perfect amount of games to send a message that this can't fly in this league. Getting into a fight every single night, throwing big hits at every guy you see, it's just not the right way to play the game. You can be physical, you can be hard-nosed, you can get into fights frequently, but the league leader in fights is Nick Delorier, and he's got like 10, and that's across the whole season. This kid's played a couple weeks and already has 4. It's good to kind of slow him down and humble him a little bit. I think this is exactly what he needed, as not necessarily a wake-up call, because it's not like he's been doing this all year. He's only been in the league a couple weeks, but this is exactly the kind of humbling he needs to get his mind right and, you know, try and find that line to walk, and instead of crossing it every single game.
And that's exactly, I could not have said that any better myself. like I said earlier, I respect what he's trying to do, but I think he's taking it a little too far. And watching that elbow,
That was nasty.
yeah,
That
it
was so
was.
bad. It was so
Everything
bad.
everything about it was dirty. It was intentional. So I think the suspension is well deserved. And again, I don't think it's over the top. I think 4 games is perfect. I will say I do think he's lucky he didn't get longer than that. But a good job on the Department of Player Safety. On
See, that we
yeah,
never say that.
yeah, I did.
Usually they're
Man,
all over the place with these. I was expecting him to either get 2 games or 15. So to see them hit him with 4 is pretty well spot on.
absolutely. So I think everything worked out. Hopefully the message gets through to him, and hopefully he kind of figures out how to walk that fine line without crossing the boundary.
Yeah. All right, so I want to move on and talk about the Detroit Red Wings, who thankfully last night finally broke their 7-game losing streak with a 4-1 win over the Buffalo Sabres. Big win for Detroit because Buffalo was starting to catch up to them in the standings. And for Detroit, who in the previous 7 games was just spiraling out of control, this was perfect for them to right the ship. You know, they had the fight at practice with Raymond and Sherratt during the week, and it seemed like the wheels were falling off the wagon. And I don't think I think they're far from the best team in the league, but they're too good to lose 7 games in a row and fall out of the playoffs. So I think this was the kind of game they needed to break the losing streak.
Well, and hopefully it's a sign of good things to come. Yeah, I mean, especially if you're a Detroit fan, you're hoping this isn't a one-off type of thing. Back to what you said earlier, though, about the fight earlier in the week at practice. That right there, we didn't have a tough look plan for this week, but we could call that our tough look.
Yeah, that is. I
Shout
think
out
when
to
you're
Lighting.
punching your own teammates, it's funny. The guys at Lightings are actually Detroit fans, so that's kind of weird how that
That
all
is
ties
true, yeah.
together. But yeah, that's a tough look when you're swinging at your own teammates. But you know what? They ironed it out. Him and Sherratt and Raymond had a nice moment in the box in the next game where they're sitting together and patting each other on the back essentially. And yeah, like I said, I think this game for Detroit was perfect. You beat a team that's right on your ass in the standings, and you break the losing streak. You get the momentum going. That's a really good way for a team in a tough spot to turn it around. So good on them for not letting it fall to 8 in a row. But at the same time, they got to keep going because the Islanders are right on their ass. Buffalo's right on their ass. Washington's right on their ass. So they really got to get going, but you got to start somewhere. So good on them.
I was going to say better late than never. And I mean, thankfully it's not too late. And I'm glad that fight didn't permanently alter any chemistry going on there in the locker room. But to further that point, I think it's worth noting at any job, you're not always going to get along with every single person. Now you're not going to be throwing haymakers at people at work at your 9 to 5.
Yeah.
You're not
Most
going to have a
places will
job.
fire you if you get into a fight with a coworker.
You will find that is frowned upon. But I will point out, when I was in the Army, I mean, there were days, you don't get along with every single person. But at the end of the day, even if you're having a disagreement with them, you might want to beat the piss out of each other that day, and then the next day everything's fine. And even if it's not, you're still always going to have that person's back no matter what. So good on them. I think it speaks volumes as to the kind of players they are. They let their emotions get the best of them, but they handled it on the ice. They left it in practice and moved on. So I think that speaks volumes of them and as players and as an organization. So like I said, we didn't have a tough look for the week, but I guess we could say that is a tough look for the Red Wings. With that being said, I'm not going to pass up the opportunity. Normally, our tough look is sponsored by Lighting's Property Management out of Kenosha, Wisconsin. For all your lawn care, landscaping, and snow removal needs, give Lighting's a call. They do it all.
All right, let's move on and talk about Connor Bedard and his 5-point night shellacking that he put up against Anaheim. And it is important to note that it was Anaheim and they suck, but
yes,
5 points for a rookie is incredible. I forgot the stat was the last time it was done, but again, Bedard more and more seeming like a walkaway candidate to win the Calder Trophy. Brock Faber's really putting together an incredible season, but Bedard is just scoring far too much on a way worse team to take that away from him. So good on him. And, in a season where not much has gone right for Chicago, including the injury to Bedard earlier, it's nice to see him bounce back and just continue this run that he's been on as a rookie. Once he gets some teammates around him that can actually play the game, I think he's going to be a lot more fun to watch than he already is.
I agree with you. I mean, you got to take into consideration if you're not someone who regularly follows Bedard, um, he's playing on a Chicago team that is just awful, and he's still excelling as an individual. So, like Brian said, you put a good team around him, he's going to be insane. He's going to be one of the best players in the league for years to come. I think he will be fun to watch. I got burnt out on hearing his name initially because I mean they didn't shut up about this guy before he even set foot on the ice. They
Yeah,
were
well,
already
and the
blowing him
same
up.
thing happened with McDavid, but again, he lived up to the hype. So
Absolutely, and I mean Bedard is too. He really is. I don't want to discredit anything that he's doing. And you know I got nothing but respect for him. I mean he's a good player. He's clean. Um, he's got a little
he's
bit of a.
funny.
He is funny. He's got a very small chip on his shoulder, but I think it goes well with his persona. So, it's really fun to watch the camaraderie between him and Nick Foligno as well. I think Nick Foligno has been nothing short of an exceptional mentor for him. So,
Which is
it's
good
fun.
because his hockey skill is vastly declined.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah, it is good. And like you said, walk away favorite for the Calder Trophy. No
Yeah, I
question in
think
my
so.
mind.
And I don't think Brock Faber or any of those young guys pursuing the Calder Trophy should hang their heads. A lot of these rookies have had incredible seasons, and there's nothing any of them should be ashamed of. It's just when the guy's putting up 5-point nights and he's scoring almost a point a game pace on a shitty team. How
Right.
can you take it away from him? And not
Right.
even
And
just a shitty team. They're dead last in the league, and or I guess San Jose just fell behind them. But in all likelihood, I don't see a situation where they don't finish dead last.
and again, you're not discrediting what Faber and the other guys are doing either. I mean, that's not what we're
Not
trying
even a
to
little
say.
bit. They're all
These
good.
guys
All
are,
them young guys are good.
yeah,
Voronkov, he's really good in Columbus. Fantilli, before he got injured, was having a good year. Same with Leo Carlson. Like Luke Hughes is having a good year, but they're just Bedard's just a step above the rest of them.
yeah. So I mean, there's nothing to be ashamed of. Everybody's having an exceptional season, so it's still fun to watch, though.
By the way, in that Chicago Anaheim game, did you see that line brawl?
No, I did not. I missed that game
Oh my!
entirely.
You'll have to look at the highlights. It's hilarious. They all get into a huge scrum on the Hawks end of the ice, and then John Gibson starts racing down the ice trying to fight Peter Mrazek. It's hilarious.
All right,
Um,
I'll do that. Would have been
yeah, you'll have
great.
to look that up on YouTube. It's pretty good.
Oh, Gibson would have kicked his ass. That's my 2 cents.
Probably John
Yeah,
Gibson saw red. It looked like he was ready to go to war. So
yeah.
probably when he already had his blocker and glove shaken off before he even got to the blue line. So he was ready to dance.
It's all
Real
right.
quick, I just want to give a shout out to Gabe Velarde of the Winnipeg Jets. Unfortunately, he's diagnosed with an enlarged spleen, so he's going to take an indefinite leave of absence from the Jets while he gets the medical treatment necessary to handle that. The Jets said there's no timeline and that their biggest concern is, of course, is him getting healthy. So just want to send our best wishes his way, and we don't ever wish medical problems of any sort on anybody. So hopefully he gets back, gets his treatment first and foremost, and hopefully before too long he's back playing hockey.
Yeah, the Jets need him, man. So, like you said, we don't ever wish any ill will on anybody ever. So, wish him a speedy recovery. Hope he can get the treatment he needs, and hope to see him back on the ice soon.
Yeah, so that's a weird one. That's 2 spleen issues in the NHL this year. I didn't have that on my bingo card, but
Who's the other one? Oh, Mark
Mark
Stone.
Stone, but
That's
his is a
right.
lacerated, so his was an
Oh
actual
shit.
physical injury. So we'll see how long it takes him to recover. But yeah, as far as Velarde, they just got to get him whatever treatment he needs. And like I said, hopefully he's back on the ice soon. Never want to see anybody missing any time.
Yeah, no,
I want
absolutely
to
not.
move on and talk about the Arizona Coyotes now. Well, I really don't want to talk about the Coyotes. I never do. But
But we always do.
as far as this carnival arena arrangement they have going on, they were just approved by, I think it was the city of Phoenix to bid on a piece of land in Northeast Phoenix. They put in an application to bid on this plot of land. I forgot how big it is, but the auction for the land is supposed to be sometime in the next 10 weeks. So what that means for Coyotes fans and the organization is that sometime in the next 10 weeks, we might actually have a solution on the Coyotes, because what will happen is they're either going to get this land and build an arena on it and stay in Arizona, or if they lose the bid, it's seeming like they're going to be out of town after this season.
Well, I don't want to be a Debbie Downey here, but I'm hoping they're out of town and on their way to Salt Lake City, if I'm being honest.
I want to say that too, man. But the problem is the NHL loves Arizona. They know there's a market there. They just can't get around this Mickey Mouse team and get an arena. I'm telling you, if the league leaves Arizona, they will be back. They'll expand and add a team and put them as Arizona. There's too many people there to not put a team. I don't care how much you don't like it. They're going to stick a team there.
But it's not that I don't like Arizona having a team. I should point that out. The issue I'm having is, like you said, this absolute dumpster fire of an organization is not it. Get them out of there, start over.
Yeah, honestly, if you put any of the other 31 clubs in Arizona, I do feel like there would probably be success.
I'm not disagreeing with you whatsoever. I just right now, as it sits, the Arizona Coyotes
gotta go.
Yeah, they gotta go. That's it. I don't disagree that they would do well with an organization in Arizona. There's a ton of people. There's absolutely a market for it.
The weather's great year round. Getting players there wouldn't be an issue, but yeah, right now they don't want people. They don't want guys, or guys don't want to play there because it's a 4,000 seat arena. It's a college arena. It's not even their building. So
exactly. So, and we're not again. I'm not ripping on the Mullet Arena because from what I've seen, I haven't seen it in person yet. But from what I've seen online and people's comments and everything, it seems like it's actually a really nice college arena.
Yeah,
but
it is. It's Arizona State's. I mean, it's a nice building, but again, it's not an NHL caliber. I mean, if you watch games there, the camera angle is so goofy because it's so small.
Right. And it's a bad look on the league and the organization, I think, to have them playing there. So I say just ship them out. Stop with all the shenanigans. Don't even waste your time bidding on the land.
Well, they're going to let the owner bid on the land because ultimately Gary does not want to have to deal with the circus of a team relocating, especially when he still wants a team in Arizona. I think he's going to see this through, but from what it sounds like, if they don't win this bid, it sounds like they're on their way out.
Which is fine. I mean, hey, whatever happens, happens. But I'd like to see them on their way out. Maybe start fresh again someday. But I'm at the point where I'm so burnt out on talking about.
I didn't even want to talk about it, but I'm like, it's something, and I didn't want to just completely gloss over it because there's a chance in the next 10 weeks we could be talking about, hey, the Coyotes are building an arena in Northeast Phoenix. So, I mean, it's the reality of the situation. They could be on their way out, but in the same breath, they could be starting construction on an arena this summer, which if they do, it's going to be at least 2 years before the Coyotes are playing in it. So they're going to play in that tiny ass college arena for 2 more years.
Yeah. But I mean, if that's their light at the end of the tunnel, then so be it. What can you do?
Yeah. Again, and if you're a fan of the team, you are really, I'm telling you, you are really hoping and praying that this works out because I got to imagine this is the end of the Coyotes if it doesn't.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. I don't have a ton to put in on this because I'm just so burnt out on talking about Arizona.
Yeah, me too. And in that light, let's move on. I want to talk about the Nashville Predators, who, with their win yesterday over the Seattle Kraken, are now in a 14-game point streak. They are 12-0-2 in their last 14 games. Ever since the team canceled that trip to the Sphere to see U2 play in Vegas, they've been on a heater. They canceled the trip because the team was playing so poorly that they didn't want to reward the players and the staff with a trip to a concert. And since then, nobody can stop Nashville. They've had just the 2 OT losses, and other than that, I mean, they're just running over everybody. They went from being outside of the playoffs to being almost a sure lock for that top wild card. I don't really see them faltering. Even if they fall off eventually, I don't think they're going to drop to the second wild card or drop out of the playoffs. So a bold decision by the organization to take that, kind of leisure activity away from the players and the staff. But it's obviously, it's obviously turned out to benefit the team.
Yeah. Like you said, they've been on an absolute bender. So,
yeah.
I don't disagree with the front office. You don't reward your team for subpar performance. So I don't think they did anything wrong there. And I think it was a good, gentle, but firm wake-up call for the players. And they've been high rolling ever since. I mean, they looked good when we went and saw them play Colorado at the beginning of the month.
They did. And that's the thing. They're not just winning these games. They are playing very well. They're way more structured. Saros has really turned on the heat here. I mean, he's just been excellent for them in that. And again, when you lose 2 times in 14 games, you're doing something right.
Well, and that's exactly it. So good on the Predators. I'm excited to watch him in the playoffs. I mean, it helps. I do legitimately like the Nashville Predators. I'm not what you would call a Nashville Predators fan, but I do enjoy watching the
They're a
Predators.
fun team to watch, and after seeing them
Absolutely.
play in person, I mean, it really is. It's a fun arena to watch a game at, and I mean, they're big divisional rivals of my favorite team, but yeah,
They, like Brian just said, it's a great place to watch a game. If you've never been to the Bridgestone Arena for a hockey game, I highly advise that you do so at some point in your lifetime.
absolutely.
It's electric. They have fan experience down to a science there. Maybe bring some earplugs because it's extremely loud in there. And I will tell you, they have one of the loudest goal horns, and it shakes
Yeah,
the building.
it does.
So,
It
I mean,
is
it's
very
great. I love
loud.
it. But
It's fun, yes, but it is very loud. Yeah, if you have any kind of sensitive hearing, I would bring some kind of ear protection. It is blisteringly loud.
yeah, I'm
So
already half deaf in one ear, so I got nothing to lose.
I was gonna say we already have damaged hearing, so for us it was just like, yeah, it's pretty loud.
Yeah. Moving
So
on.
yeah. Moving on. I just wanted to give the Preds a shout out because they've been playing so well, and it was seemed to be a direct result of that nice team activity being taken away from them. We're gonna move on now and talk about the Carolina Hurricanes. We've talked about them quite a bit as they are one of the best teams in the league, and it's looking like they're geared up for a really deep playoff run. But I saw a graphic the other night when I was scrolling through social media of all the pending free agents they have going into this summer. And this is a list of, it looks like about 12 players here. So I want to
Everybody they
read
just
this
picked
off.
up.
Yeah, actually, ironically, yes. All right, going into the summer, Carolina's free agents, pending free agents are uh, Teuvo Teravainen, Jake Gensel, Jordan Martinook, Stefan Nason, Martin Necas, Jack Drury, Seth Jarvis, Brady Shea, Brett Pesci, Jalen Chatfield, Tony DeAngelo, Antti Ranta, and Spencer Martin. So they got a lot of guys they're going to need to re-sign. Obviously, they're going to fork out some money and probably retain a good portion of those players. But at the same time, some of those guys may not want to stay around. The only RFAs are Natchez, Drury, and Jarvis, who I suspect will all stay there anyways, as they're all so young. But they're going to have to open the pocketbook up for guys like Martinook, Teravainen. I don't think Gensel's staying there. From the brief rumblings I've heard is that Gensel is likely done it there. It's just one and done there for him. But if they want to keep Shea and Pesci, I mean, those are guys you're going to have to spend a ton of money on. Chatfield's a really good player on the back end for them. I think DeAngelo's probably on his way out of town. It really just hasn't worked out there. But this is a huge chunk of the team here. I mean, this is more than two forward lines and two whole defense pairings of guys that are up. I mean, to me, this feels like this is win or bust for Carolina. This has to be the year they win the cup.
I'm with you. I mean, it's been year after year of we almost made it. And then, they see the Eastern Conference final of the Hurricanes is what the first round is to the Toronto Maple Leafs to an extent. And I don't want to hear people say, oh, they made it out of the first round. I don't care. Okay, 1 out of 20 years. Great job. So anyway, I digress. I agree. This is the year they have to win it this year, or else it's not happening at any time soon. Now, one thing I do want to ask you real quick is Kuznetsov not on that list? I thought he was done. His contract was up after this year.
No, man, he's got 2 more years on his deal, I think.
Does he really?
He's either I'll have to look it up. You can keep going. I'll look it up, but I'm almost certain he's got another year left at least.
I don't know what the fuck I was reading then.
Yeah, I think that's why Washington didn't want to buy him out. I think there was so much term on there that they didn't want to bother holding on to that contract. But I am looking it up as we speak right now. He wasn't on that list. He is making, let's see. I just had it in front of me, then I scrolled right past it. Yeah, he is through the end of next season. So he's making $7.8 million with a modified no trade clause. Through the end of next season. So he's got one more year left in Carolina. He's 31. I mean, I gotta imagine he'll probably, if things go well in Carolina, I can see him re-signing there. But that's a later on discussion. It depends on the success of the team, the direction they want to go. Obviously, with him having that no trade clause, they can't really probably ship him out before the end of this deal. So I'll be interested to see where things go. But yeah, they got him for at least one more year, and they're going to need him because it looks like they're gearing up to lose at least a couple of guys this offseason.
I just smacked the fuck out of my knuckle on my mic. That hurt like shit. Sorry.
Well, don't do that again. I was wondering what that was. I had Cap Friendly up in front of me and just heard a plunk. I was hoping you're all right.
No, I'm good. I'm just stupid. I do think Kuznetsov is actually a really good fit for Carolina. So I am wishing him well there because I think he's a good fit for them and they're a good fit for him. So I wouldn't mind seeing him stay there.
Did you see his goal the other night?
I sure did. And then Rod Brindamore afterwards, he's like, I used to hate that fucking bird thing when I had to watch it, but now I love it.
Yeah.
So.
And then they did the storm surge at the end of the game and they're all doing it. So
yes.
That was kind of a nice feel good moment for a guy who's really kind of gone through it the last couple of years. So
yeah,
good for him and good for the Canes. But just reading that list again, that's like 12 guys that are gone after this season. So they got to figure it out this year. Otherwise, it seems like that may be in jeopardy for that group.
I was gonna say, I mean, they're like you said, there's no way in hell they're re-signing all of those guys, if half of them in the offseason. So, like we said, this has got to be the year for Carolina, and if it's not, there's gonna be some pretty dark days ahead for Hurricanes fans.
I don't even know if dark days is the right term, but it certainly seems like their Stanley Cup aspirations are in jeopardy if they can't hold on to a good majority of these guys. And maybe I'm way off base on this, but it seems like this has to be the year. I know we mentioned it with Dallas too. It feels like this has to be the year it happens. Who knows? Maybe it is. Maybe the Stanley Cup final is Dallas and Carolina, as boring as that sounds. But that'd be an awful one for the TV ratings, but it'd be a good matchup. They're both really good teams.
Well, and not to get off topic and not to bring up one of my teams, but I'm almost feeling that way for Boston as well. Like you need to do it this year or
Allmark's done there after this year.
Yeah.
I'm almost certain of it. They're going to find a team that's not on his no trade list and send him there.
Absolutely. He's still got a year left in his contract and then he's a UFA, but I promise you Allmark is getting shipped out of town this summer. I would put money on it.
Yeah, This is going to be a fun free agent season come July, so I can't wait for that, but that's a later on discussion.
Depending on who you're a fan of.
Yeah, it could be. If you're a Hurricanes fan, this could be, the days of reckoning lying ahead.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move on here. I don't want to spend too long in this next part, but I did want to bring it up, and I know this is a hot button issue for you. Anson Carter is heading a group that wants to bring an NHL team to Atlanta in the form of expansion. Bottom line is this. The NHL's already had two teams in Atlanta in the past. They had the Flames in the 70s. That didn't work. They became the Calgary Flames. And when the Atlanta Thrashers were there in the 2000s and very early 2010s, the lease for the building ran out and they had nowhere to play. So they shipped out of town and became the Winnipeg Jets. It's a big metropolitan area. The NHL loves this market. They know they can make a team work there. What do you think of them potentially getting a 33rd team?
No. You've tried it twice. It didn't work. I don't care how convinced they are that they can make a team work there. Give a different city a chance. Third time is not always the charm. I'm tired of it. I'm so tired of hearing Atlanta come up in expansion talks. And I want to point out that I do like Anson Carter. I think he's a great analyst. He was a great player. But dude, put a team somewhere else. Give somebody else a chance. And not Quebec either.
Yeah, not Quebec. No, I don't think putting another team in Canada is ever the solution.
Yeah.
We're way apart on this because I think this is a perfect spot if they truly want to add another team. The bottom line is when the Thrashers were in Atlanta, the reason it didn't work out was because the arena was kind of a shithole. The lease expired. It wasn't really an issue of the product as a whole. They just didn't have a building to play in and had a full roster of guys they had to get on the ice. And when Winnipeg was the only option, that's what they had to go with. And they can't just put a team in Atlanta now with the Hawks building because that arena has since been renovated to have better sight lines for basketball. So putting hockey there really isn't an option. So they would need to build an arena, but Atlanta is too large of a market, in my opinion, to not have a team. It just needs to be done right. It's the same thing with Arizona. It needs to be done right, and it just never really was. And I don't even think it was so much an issue the way the team was run, but losing your arena all of a sudden it put them in an impossible spot, and because of that, we now have the Jets. Gary Bettman didn't even really want to put another team in Canada. It's just Winnipeg had the building and the ownership ready to take a team, so that was the option they had. That's how the Jets ended up with the team. Because trust me, Gary Bettman did not want to have one of his teams playing in a 15,000 seat building in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And that's not to dump on Jets fans. That's just the reality. And if you know how our commissioner is of this league, you know I'm right on the nose with that. But thankfully, we have the Jets because that's a great barn. But ultimately, like going back to Atlanta, this league needs to get into Atlanta. That's a huge market that they're missing out on. And especially with ESPN and TNT having the studios in Atlanta, I think having a team there would be great for that market.
We're just going to have to agree to disagree on this one because there's not anything anybody's going to say to me where I'm going to be like, you know what? Yeah, let's put a team there. I'm done with it. It's been tried. It didn't work. And you know what? If they inevitably end up putting a team there and it doesn't work out, then I never want to hear anything about Atlanta ever again.
They're going to beat Boston in the first round they ever play them in the playoffs, aren't they?
I'll stop watching hockey.
He's going to have a tough time in a couple weeks in April when the Leafs bounce the Bruins in the first round too.
Dude, I will make a bet with you right now. What do you want to wager on that game? Because I promise
my Xena puck.
Okay.
You have to send me your Xena puck when the Leafs bounce the Bruins.
Okay. Dude, that's not gonna I promise you that the Leafs are not gonna bounce the Bruins. That is their kryptonite. It shows in the playoffs and it shows in the regular season.
It does actually. If the Bruins play the Leafs in the first round, I'm probably gonna take Boston in my bracket. But you never know. That's why they play the games. I don't think anybody ever had Columbus beating Tampa Bay in a sweep in 2019, but it happened.
No.
Nobody took the Panthers over the Bruins last year. You never know.
God, that pisses me off and makes me so happy at the same time because I absolutely love both those teams, but it was hard to get bounced by Florida after being up 3-1 in that series. That's where I got pissed off, but I was extremely happy for Florida. So it was kind of a double-edged sword. But
you don't have to talk about playoff woes with me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Not talk about a team that can't win in the first round. Oh my God, Minnesota!
Oh shit! This year they're not even going to see the first round.
So yeah, I was going to say unless they continue this tear that they've been on lately, they ain't going to see the first round either. Yeah. So that's how you can't lose in the first round if you don't make it. So I'm not too worried about it.
Modern problems require
modern solutions. Exactly. So God, well, Minnesota will have a discussion about in the offseason and the issues they faced as far as trying to ice a competitive team, but it's not something I'm overly concerned with right now as a fan. It's just been fun to watch them play really well, but we'll talk about them at a later date because right now I don't feel it's too relevant to the show. So let's move on here. Before we wrap the show up, we have a very exciting announcement to make. Starting this week, we are going to be going to 2 shows a week. Andrew, you want to tell everybody else a little bit more about it?
Nah, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay, fine. All right, that's the show. We're done.
All right. No, I mean, we've been doing, as we mentioned on the last episode, this entire series has already far exceeded our expectations. You know, when we first started doing this, I told Brian, you know, I'll be happy if we get 10 people to listen to our show every week. We've far surpassed that, and we've been blown away by it. And we just really enjoyed doing this show. So we just decided we're going to give doing 2 episodes a week a shot, see how that goes. Hopefully it works out for us well, and it works out well for you guys. So we're going to do that. So the first one, we will record it on Wednesday, and it will be published very first thing on Thursdays.
So with that in mind too, with our Wednesday show, we need to come up with content. Obviously, we'll still cover hockey news as it comes in. And I actually think having a second show is going to help us kind of stay more current with everything that's going on.
Absolutely.
Because the one thing that I've not liked with doing the one show a week is that sometimes we're a little bit behind on things. There was a subject we were going to talk about today that ultimately was scratched from the show because I just felt it was too far gone. But we're going to talk about hockey news, but we also want to give you as the listeners a chance to ask us questions, give us input. So Andrew went ahead and created an email for the show. We want you guys to send in questions after every episode at contact@freshicehockeypodcast.com. Send in any questions or comments you have about the show, and we're going to comb through them, and we're going to read them on the Wednesday shows. We'll pick out the ones we want to respond to. So, you know, they can be questions about really anything. Ideally, we'd like them to be about hockey, but give us any kind of input you'd like, ask us questions you like, and it may just end up on one of our Wednesday or I guess Thursday shows, since that's when it'll be posted.
Absolutely. And if you don't feel like taking the time to type out contact at freshicehockeypodcast.com, you can just go to our website, freshicehockeypodcast.com.
Oh yeah, we have a website. Boy, I buried the lead.
Well, don't worry, I was getting there. We now have a website, freshicehockeypodcast.com. And if you scroll down the page a little bit, there's a little area where you can submit questions or comments to us, and we will still see them, and it'll just go directly to our show's email. So if you want to submit things to us that way, there's still a good chance it'll still end up on the show. Like Brian said, we'd like the questions to be related to hockey, but you can ask us anything you'd like to. We'll pick the best ones and we'll put them on the show.
Yeah, pretty much. And I think that'll be really great. Again, like I said, we're not going to just not do hockey stuff on that show, but it'll give us a chance to kind of have an open line of communication with you, the listeners, because with how much the audience has grown, I think it's extremely important that not only do we get feedback on the show directly, but that we communicate with our audience as it continues to grow. So I think this is a perfect opportunity. And Andrew, I want to thank you for getting all this set up, because you have been busting your ass the last week and a half, 2 weeks to get all this stuff going, to do the video for the show, get the website up, get the contact email set up. You've done so much of the legwork for this. And as fun as this show is to do, a lot of it probably wouldn't have been possible without you. So thanks, buddy.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. It's been a lot of work, man. And
yeah, it has. I know you don't even have hair to pull out anymore, and you're still pulling your hair out.
I'm not pulling my beard out. Growing that takes patience. So
I just trim mine down.
I will say, obviously, this is, as we mentioned earlier, this is our first video recorded episode where you're going to be able to watch us. So yeah, we got some things we're going to have to work out going forward. This is our first one. Just bear with us. I mean, you've listened to our show. You know what we're capable of. And I'm not patting us on the back. Yeah, no shit.
The Nashville show we took down was evidence of that, but that's okay.
Yeah, that we should. Yeah, we won't get into that right now.
That was a missed opportunity. We'll call it that.
Yeah, a missed opportunity. What it really was is I just dropped the ball so hard that it rolled all the way to Cleveland from Nashville. So it was, yeah, my fault. But I digress. Send us your questions. Contact at freshicehockeypodcast.com. Don't forget to check out our website, freshicehockeypodcast.com, where you can actually listen to the show on our website. You can also donate to the show if you feel so inclined. We don't expect anybody to, but obviously we would appreciate if somebody chose to do so. That would be incredible. Also, be sure to follow us on Facebook. Give us a like on Facebook, Fresh Ice Hockey Podcast, and follow us on Instagram at Fresh Ice Hockey Podcast. If you're not catching on, you haven't been catching on, everything is Fresh Ice Hockey Podcast. So, but I'm still going to say that every week.
Yep. Yeah. And again, just a reminder, if you're somebody that's listening on one of the streaming apps like iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, please go on YouTube and watch the show too, because as this continues to evolve, I'm sure we're going to have some visual effects and stuff added in and put graphics up as we're talking and covering stories. So it's paramount that you're watching us on YouTube so you can see what we're putting out as well. But in the same light, if video's not your thing, we still appreciate you listening on all the podcast platforms.
Absolutely. I echo that. And I would also like to point out that our backgrounds over the coming episodes are going to change as we get our studios more set up as we want them. It's a little bit more time consuming because obviously Brian and I live in 2 different states. So we do this via video call. So even when we're not recording, this is how we're communicating with each other. So yep. I will say nothing is set in stone yet, but I'm hoping in a couple weeks we'll be able to do one in person together.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that. You're right.
Yeah. So that's all I'm going to speak on that for right now. But there's a possibility.
I was just going through my call log on FaceTime, and it's just 900 calls with you and one with my wife. There you go.
I think like my last probably 30 FaceTime calls are with you.
They better be. Your best friend.
You would think we're married with as much as we end up calling each other.
Yeah, so. It's a lot of video calls, and then we talk about nothing for 30 minutes to an hour or more. So
yeah, it's all the stuff that doesn't make it on this show. So
yeah, exactly. That's
hey,
right.
honestly, there's probably stuff on this show we should just leave in the phone conversations like this one. So
yeah, exactly. I was going to say, I think IQ points are rapidly dropping. We should probably wrap up. Thank you guys so much for listening to our show. And thank you for Xenopucks for sponsoring us as always. We'll see you guys in a couple days.
take care and comb your hair.